ReadDL's ReadDL 2022, our interview with Stewart Foster, who is the writer of Checkmates. So just to begin, everyone's just going to introduce themselves and then we'll get started with the interview itself. Perfect. So whenever you're ready, guys, away go. Who's going to?
Right. I'm Oren and I love reading and playing football and playing music.
Hi, I'm Marin and I like playing torso and playing football.
And I tell you what, I saw your names written down on the email and I was thinking, how on earth do you say those names? So now I know how to say your names. So I feel so sorry for you two. You must go around the whole time telling people how to spell your names. Yes. Just very quickly, I'll let you into a secret. That's why all the names in any of my books are very, very simple. I've got a friend of mine that he makes up sort of like I don't know, like very random names that you can't say properly, and then when you have to read it, if you've got to read that name 100 times in a book, the last thing you want to do is something that you stumble over. So I nearly always have really, really simple names like Felix, for example. So there you go.
Fantastic. That's great. So you all know now you are all introduced. And we did do an imaginary flip of a coin, Stuart. So
yeah.
For who's going to begin? So who's going to begin? Can we remember? Yes. So I'm going to mute myself because I just explained as well.
Can I just ask you a favor?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I usually wear hearing aids for this thing and I can't find my hearing aids. Okay, so if I can't hear the question straight away, would you mind just repeating it for me?
That's no bother. That's
all right.
What I'm here for.
You got him.
I'm just muting just in case any of the animals here in this building decide
yeah, no worries.
To sing. So here we go.
My first question is, what is your favorite book and why is it your favorite book?
Okay, there is a bit of feedback from somewhere, but anyway, I think I heard what is your favorite book and why is it? Do you mean the one that I've written or one that I've read?
Read.
One that I've read. Okay, it's current book. I say current, it's quite an old book now. I love Holes by Lewis Saka. So I love Holes. Every time I start to write a book, I imagine I'm writing Holes because I love the introduction to it. And I'm not going to lie to you that the book I'm writing right now is a total kind of like me admiring Holes because the first 3 or 4 chapters are kind of like Holes because I'm allowed to write something quite different this time. So that's quite cool. Growing up, it was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by about that far. I just, when I look back on it now and I see all the names and they're so sort of like ordinary and PC and it's kind of like, I wonder how children read it now, but I loved it then. So I just hope it still stands up because I genuinely thought there was stuff in my wardrobe. It was just such a believable book. So yeah, those two I would say.
Yeah. What inspired you to write the characters James, King, Jake, and Rebecca?
Oh. That's unusual. I've not had those questions before. Shall I show what is quite loads of people want to know more about James, and obviously he's just a troublemaker. What inspired both of those? Okay, I'll tell you what it was. Rebecca in particular was I felt that in my first 2 books, girls were underrepresented in my books. Certainly in All the Things That Go Wrong, which was book before, because it was 2 main male characters. And whilst one of them had a sister, she didn't have much to do with it. So I really wanted to write a character that was strong, because really she kind of is the strong person in the whole book. So I wanted to do that. I was also probably testing myself as to whether I could write a female character because the next book is a female protagonist. So the one that's coming out in June this year is a female protagonist. So I think I was probably testing the water just to make sure I could do it. And I'm not going to ask you if you think I did it okay. So So that was it. That was her. James King is just kind of, I think, doesn't every school have one? I kind of think that everybody has a James King, that he's kind of, I think it probably comes across he's not particularly nice. And I think every school has one. Apologies if your school hasn't got one, then lucky you, like I say. But yeah, I just kind of thought it represented, I thought it was an accurate representation of the type of people that get sent to Staring at the Wall Club are people like Felix, who don't deserve to be there, in my opinion. I don't think anybody deserves to be the Staring at the Wall Club, to be honest. But I wanted the Staring at the Wall Club to reflect the real people that might be sent there. So that's where they come from.
What inspired you to start being an author?
Inspired me to be an author. I did, when my kids grew up, I made stories. I never read to my kids. I made stories up. So at bedtime, I would just make them up. And they would giggle like mad. And I would go downstairs laughing at the stuff that had just randomly come into my head. I would have to say, though, if I went back to when I was 14 or 15, it was because I wrote poetry about my friends. And it sounds really big-headed, and I apologize, but it made me popular with people, because they went from don't write a poem about me to please write a poem. And I even put them on notice boards. Sometimes I would write one and then put one on it, and I would never sign it, but of course they all knew it was me. So it was the ability to make people laugh, but also in the middle of one of the poems that I wrote about a boy, another lad come up to me and said, the bit in the middle was really sad. And I wasn't taking the mickey out of the boy. It was just a little sad bit. And the boy I wrote it about didn't mind at all. And I said, well, yeah, it was kind of supposed to be. And then I realized that I could write sad things as well. And it sounds really bad, but if you write something sad and you make something, so if everything's funny, it's up there. If you write something sad and it's down there, the difference between sad and funny is that much. So when something is funny, it feels funnier. And that's really what I would say all of my writing does. It does that. It kind of sad, funny, sad, funny. I think if it went like that, you probably wouldn't read it. Or I certainly wouldn't write it.
Is the family dynamic similar to your own?
Can you just say that again for me?
Is the family dynamic similar to your own?
Oh, what, Felix's family? Yeah. Let me just try to remember Felix's family. No. No. There's the similarities with Felix, as you probably know, is the ADHD, which is me, which I explained to you in the video. But no, I would say there's not an element of. The answer is no. Yeah, it's kind of usually what I would say is. So, for example, I've just realized this morning that 3 of my main characters, so Felix, Alex, and Riley, who were in 3 of my books, I realized this morning that is all my old neighbors' children when we were growing up. When they were so, if I went back 15 years when my kids were younger, we had some neighbors, and their names were those, and I've realized that subconsciously I put their names are in the book. They're not the same characters. Perhaps Riley, the boy that I wrote in Perfect Parent Project, is probably loosely based on one of my neighbor's kids from 15 years ago. So no, those dynamics aren't similar to mine at all.
Could you imagine the characters in real life in a movie or in a play?
Oh, I wish. I'll let you. It's not a secret anymore. But Bubble Boy, my first book, during year before last, it looked like Netflix were going to turn it into a film, and I was absolutely. I was running around everywhere. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I can be so rich. It's going to be amazing. But unfortunately, that book resembled COVID too much, because I wrote it 6 years ago, but a lot of what I wrote in there was actually COVID. Which is really, so that didn't take off. I 100% could see, I hope you agree with this, but if you've only read Checkmates, then that's the only thing you have to go on. But 3 of my books, All the Things That Go Wrong, Checkmates, and The Perfect Parent Project, could all be set in the same school. And I keep looking at there's growing up. Mrs. too young for this, so she won't remember it. But growing up in the UK, there was a program called Grange Hill, which was about a comprehensive school somewhere in London. And I think all of my books could be a TV series just set in one school, and you would just pick up the characters from time to time. So that's my answer to that question. Every once in a while, I just kind of think the BBC studios in Bristol aren't far away. I kind of think just sitting outside and just throwing my books around and putting them on park benches where they might go for their lunches and see they pick it up. So who knows? You never know.
What was your motivation to write about a child with ADHD?
So this is quite, I've got to think this through. When I write a story, and if any of their writers there, if you can summarize your story in perhaps 1 or 2 sentences, then you know you've kind of got an okay story, all right? And my daughter, who's a writer as well, she's terrible. She would go on and on about what the plot is, and I'll have to go, no, just two sentences. So Checkmates was a boy struggling at school. His granddad tries to teach him chess to help him concentrate, and they build a relationship. That's all I had. When I started writing it, my editor said, can we give him dyslexia? And I was really, really annoyed, because for once I wanted to write about somebody that actually didn't have an issue, or actually my answer was, can we just have a happy kid? And they kind of said, well, no, it'd be, you've done loneliness, you've done OCD, you've done bullying. So I gave him dyslexia. And for the first 5 or 6 chapters, I could not bear it. I could not bear the book. I was doing all the cliche things. So anybody with dyslexia, all I was writing was, oh, the words jump around. Give me my yellow pages so I can read better. And it was all cliche. And then I realized that actually part of the reason was, I couldn't sit still when I was writing it. And I messaged my editor and I said, look, it's not working. And she said, look, I need to talk to you. And she said, why not dyslexia? And I said, because I don't want anybody to pick up the book and say I got it wrong. And she said, oh, that's interesting. And I said, because that's the worst thing that could happen. If they say, oh, it's nothing like that. And they said, oh, so what is it? And I said, well, I cannot keep still when I'm writing. I said, I never have been. So anybody, I think I probably said earlier on, but the chapters are short for me because I couldn't sit still. And I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 46, which explains a lot of things growing up, I can tell you. So, and I ended up just thinking, make it ADHD. And actually it becomes so easy because I was writing what I knew. And so when Felix is like looking out the window, that was me. What happened growing up, there was a lot of people thought that was my deafness, that I wasn't paying attention. In 2 subjects it was, because I couldn't hear the teachers. But a lot of the time it was me just getting ideas and going, oh my goodness, I got to write that down, or just shouting something out, and then somebody just finding it very funny. So that's where it's me. So that's where it come from. You two do a very good job, by the way.
What is the history of your career as an author?
Excuse me?
What's the history of your career as an author?
The history of oh my goodness. I said that my stories go. That's what a career as an author does. You won't have the book. I hope you haven't got the book. But my very first book, We Used to Be Kings, is an adult book about a boy with schizophrenia, and it's got a lot of swearing in it, so you can't read it. But the press I got for that was incredible. I was on national TV here on a Sunday evening. I was in the centre pages of the Guardian newspaper and the Telegraph. And I thought I was going to be so famous. And the lad that I was writing with at the time, somebody I taught at university, was helping write with me. And we just thought we were going to be so rich and so famous. And then I got so I was like up here. And then I got a really, really horrible review from the Times, I think it was. And my publisher described it as spiteful, but what that did was it actually stopped my publisher taking my next adult book. And that book, so We Used to Be Kings didn't sell very many copies at all. So I was down here when I wrote Bubble Boy. I was walking around the streets of Bath, absolutely wondering what I'd done, giving up a job and sort of doing it. And I started writing Bubble Boy, and I sent it to my agent, and she said, "You idiot." She sent it back to me about two hours later. "You idiot, this is the best thing you've ever written." And I realized that actually this sounds very bad, but sometimes if you're not particularly happy, you do write very good things. You become more attached with your emotions or in touch with your emotions. And I've always said it now that if I feel like a little bit low, the payoff is I write really well. So so that's what a career does. It kind of like goes up and down. And so basically it was up for We Used to Be Kings, down, hugely up for Bubble because it sold loads of copies in America. Kind of middling for all the things that could go wrong because that was me really wanted to make a point about bullying and OCD. So it was quite a serious book. So it kind of sold that sort of about, but Checkmates kind of put me back up there again. So so it is that all this time. Bit like life.
What are the similarities and differences between your childhood and Felix's? For
Ooh.
example, chess, scuba diving, and Germany.
Okay. I'm not sure if I said this, but I'll say it again anyway. The scene where Felix blames losing the game on, I think it's just cheese and onion crisp or Doritos or something. I think, anyway, he blames losing the game on that. That's true. That was me losing the semi-final at junior school to a girl who halfway through the game opened up. I'm very bad with food. Okay, so I'm going to qualify this. But she opened up her sandwich box, and she had peanut butter sandwiches, and they stank absolutely. I'm not going to tell you. You know what peanuts smell like. So, and I can remember thinking, "Oh my god, what a horrible stink!" And I lost the game, and I blamed it on that. So I was kind of okay at chess. As an adult, I'm useless at it. Absolutely. A friend of mine, we went to France together, and we played about 50 games over 4 or 5 nights. And I never won once, even when he had had too much to drink. I could not win. It was just, so I'm rubbish at chess. I can play it, but all those moves, I learned so much, but obviously I didn't retain it because of my attention span. But loads of that, the chess moves was great, just learning that. Similarities with Felix, again, if I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but the character of Grandad isn't based on my dad, but the sentiment of their relationship is. And it's based on, so that German character, that came from somewhere else altogether. But the reason I wrote about a Grandad was that my dad was very ill and terminally ill. And my daughter was in the car with me. And we were laughing about something that my dad had done to them when they were children. And then my daughter just went, "Oh, I do love my Grandad." And it was like, whoa, the way she said it was just so, and I kind of felt like blubbing. And I just said, "Oh, Tao." I said, my daughter's name is Tallulah. And so when Felix says, "I love my Grandad, but I'm not sure if he loves me," or "it's hard to tell if he loves me," that's her saying that. So there's a little bits of similarities with there. I'm trying to think of what others. The setting is it's my house growing up, having a tree in the center of a green on a council estate. That's me. I know you've read the book, so I want to quickly say it, but my favorite scene of the book, or what I think is the most clever scene, is at one point when Felix had fallen out with Jake and he'd fallen out with Grandad. And I realized I was going to have 2 scenes of apologies, which I didn't think people would read, because it was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Grandad, I'm sorry, Grandad." And then, "I'm sorry, Jake." And the bit when Jake puts the chessboard under the tree, was me jumping around the room going, oh my goodness, I've just sold everything. And it was just like, so for me, that was like the real, oh my goodness, this book's suddenly quite good. So that's where that comes. All of those that you just shook your head when I said this book's quite good, I couldn't see you, okay? So
Do you feel like when you're writing about a child and if they have a problem like ADHD or dyslexia, does it make it more interesting?
does it make it more interesting? Yeah. It's if I learn things. I think the most boring book I would ever write is something that they always say, write what you know. If I wrote what I knew and never learned anything, I can't see the point of writing a book. So if I learn something, then it means you learn something. So that's what makes it interesting. So it was the chess moves. In checkmates in particular, the German stuff about the Berlin Wall, I had so much fun going back to the maps of when they built the wall. And I gave granddads walking the streets, and I had to like write Gudenstrabe and all the names of the streets, St. Frederick's Plaza. And to think I'd always have been there because I was in Germany, whatever, 15 years ago. And it was amazing just to kind of like, yeah, the German bit was great. I mean, I can't believe how relevant it's become now, obviously, because of the war and things. But so, yeah, if I learn things and you learn things, it makes school talks a lot more interesting for a start. If I just turned out and just went, oh, it's about me when I was a little boy, and it's just kind of like, no, actually, it's this. And but I should tell you that when you're writing the book, I don't realize what I'm writing until I get to the end, and then you get a review where somebody says, oh, the historical element allied to the relationship between Felix and Grandad is amazing. And I think, oh, that is what it's about. It's a journey. And you realize that characters make a journey. When I'm writing it, I'm not particularly aware of it. I just sit and type and hope that it's good. Hope.
Sinead? Sinead? That's all the questions, is it?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's all the questions.
Is it?
That's all.
You did very well. Cheers for it's kind of like quite weird. I'm not sure. I don't think I can make you bigger, but I can't see you very well there. Thanks, Sax. But I hope you didn't get nervous about this, did you?
No, they weren't nervous at all. Like,
Yeah, this is like I always like laugh when I go into schools, and which I love is like you never actually asked the question. But the thing I love most about writing is going into schools. I even said about a month or so ago, if I could stop writing for a year but just do school visits, I would. That's what I just love the amount of fun, especially secondary school. That's not to say but the level of conversation that I can have in a secondary school about OCD, bullying, ADHD is slightly different, obviously, because of their ages, and also you've probably experienced it a bit more as well. So yeah, that's what I suppose. But your questions were great, and I often think now when I do school visits, I leave more time for questions because I talk too much, as you can tell.
well, like what I found out actually today was that we have a classroom filled full of writers. So if you don't mind putting your hands up high in the air again, who would consider them?
Hey, there's two in the back.
There's two in the back, but yeah, no, we've got lots of writers. Yeah, look at that. And we have very eager readers as well. And as you can see that high up at the hand, high up in the back there, we've got a very eager reader and writer.
Yeah.
So we have an absolutely wonderful group of real eager readers and writers. And I think that you said so many interesting things in terms of writing being a journey. It's not this straight line that you start writing and then you get yourself a shiny book to hold on to. You know, you've got that lovely wave you get there, but it's all about the experiences that you take along the way. But that's the main thing. And then also we were just talking about the importance of reading in order to become the writers that they want to be. So the more you read, the more it really helps. But thank you so much, Stewart, for your time today.
Yeah, you've been amazing, and all of you over there. I thought at one point I was going to be coming over, but it's gone very quiet. So I don't know whether that was increasing COVID or not. But I would love to come over. So in the future, if it suddenly looks up, I even looked at Donegal Golf Course because I wanted to go and play golf while I was over there. So I did, seriously. That's not the reason I wanted to go, obviously. I wanted to meet you all.
Of course. No, yes, no, but we do. We are beautiful, and we would love to have you down as well. So we will talk about that too.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be great.
But no, it was lovely even to get this opportunity to meet you virtually. And
yeah. Can I just say something to your writers? Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
When you write it, all it is everybody says to me, what is your main tip, right? And you're all covering about the fact that if you read a lot, you can aspire to be the writer you want to be. Now, there's no secret, I don't read very much, but that is ADHD. My attention span is appalling. I get 4 or 5 pages in and it's, and I've had loads of teachers, well, not loads now, but they kind of like say, oh, could you just say you read a little bit so that it encourages the children to read, because we do want them to read. So my answer is a couple of things, right? Is one, if you do find a writer you like, I wish it was here now, I should have had it, but I've got 3 copies of a book called The Road by Cormac McCarthy. And I have read the whole book. It's not very particularly long, but what I do with it is I would just open it. If I'm stuck, I just open it, and you realize you do not need the most flowery words of description. You just need rhythm in the writing. So sometimes I pick it up and I just say, oh my goodness, this guy's got such a beautiful rhythm to how he writes. I'll read 1 page and it's gone. So if you've got a favorite writer, just look up and just go. Sometimes like how to start a chapter, go to a favorite writer. And I usually always start with dialogue. And the other thing is, when you are writing, share it with each other. Because growing up, I had a mattress of paper with poems and short stories on it. It was all under my bed. Honestly, it was thousands of pieces of paper under my bed. And I never really shared it with anybody. And it was only when I started sharing it with my children that I realized how much I missed workshopping. And I went back to university when I was 45. Sharing your work with people was amazing. And not just because you want them to say it's great, but because if they suddenly said something like, and this is what happens in my case, is somebody might say, oh, what about if this happened? And then I would just go, no, that doesn't happen. This happens. And by discussing it, you get something else altogether. So the lad that I work with, I wish I still did, because I love working with him, but he wrote the first 3 books with me, editing wise. And that's what the process would be. He would just say, what if this happened? And I go, no, it's this. And then we both go, yeah, we got it right. So that, and then when you are writing, don't reread what you have written, because you will delete it. I would delete every single word. I've got 50,000 words on this laptop at the moment that I would delete, but you don't. You just got to keep going. All right. So I took up too much time. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Not at all. They were absolutely fantastic tips, and I think that even looking back over stuff that you've written, you would feel the need to edit, but you need to go forward. So it's really important to keep writing. But no, Stewart, thank you so much for your time. Thank you as well to our wonderful interviewers and the entire class from Gaelscoil Bhun Cranncha. Bhun Cranncha is a beautiful place, Stewart, in Donegal as well. Gora Mayagas. Thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you enjoy Read-Yale 2022 Celebrating Checkmates by Stewart Foster. So thank you guys. Big wave, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.